Hey everybody, Dawn Zoldai here, CEO of P3 Tech Consulting and publisher at Autonomy Global. Welcome to your Dawn of Autonomy podcast. We are rounding out an incredible month that we dedicated to the theme of UTM and infrastructure. And I was just saying to these amazing gentlemen before we started, this is, I have to say, is the very first show in over 5 years of doing it where we have a large aircraft company with the consultant that helps them, figure all of this out from a certification standpoint. And so it is so exciting to have on the show today, Elroy Air, Andrew Clare, and Martin Solutions, Jose Martin. So welcome both of you to the show.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don.
Absolutely. So let's start with Andrew. Andrew, first of all, tell us, don't jump right into your company, which everybody tends to do. Tell us about you first. Like, give us that kind of 30-second biography, if you will.
Sure thing, Don. Well, first of all, thanks for having me here. A little bit about myself. My name is Andrew Clare. I'm the CEO of Elroy Air. Born and raised out in New York. Studied aerospace engineering up at MIT, doing my PhD, focused on drones. Moved out here to the California Bay Area, where I've worked at companies such as Tesla, leading the overall Model X vehicle program, and at Neuro as the Chief Technology Officer responsible for their self-driving tech. And happy to share a lot more about Elroy Air when we get into it.
Oh my gosh, holy shnikes. So I had Neuro on a show before. They have the little like driving robot thing, right?
Yeah, so Neuro builds on-road self-driving tech. Neuro has been building that tech for nearly 10 years. Super proud of what we've built. Started in the delivery space and now extended into the robotaxi space.
Yeah, that's crazy. So what a pedigree. And Jose, your background is spectacular as well. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
So what we do is to enable technologies like Andrew Elroy Air. So my background is 21 years of certification. I worked for the authority, not the FAA, but Transport Canada, and I am a DER with a special delegation into unmanned aircraft.
Yeah, so DER, I remember you and I talked about this before, but for those that don't know what that is, what is that?
Designated engineering representative is a special delegation that the FAA provides, a privilege that the FAA provides to certain personnel to do showing of compliance or to interpret certain of the regulation. I have a special delegation in 2117 Bravo that is interpretation of the special class rule, Joby Air, and that kind of aircraft. Yes.
Awesome. And I just remember from our previous conversations, Jose, that you've got deep roots in all of the, I'll call it the big four civil aviation authorities, if you will, the FAA, Transport Canada, ANAC in Brazil, and of course, EASA in Europe. So, these are the guests here, folks, and we're talking UTM and infrastructure. And it's really kind of interesting to have them on the show, because we're on the cusp of something really interesting right now with the FAA's eVTOL IPP integration pilot program. We're seeing, we just saw some announcements. I know you guys were in the mix there for those announcements in terms of, some of the activities you're going to do. We're not going to get into that today because, that's just too fresh and raw and those things haven't happened yet. But what I want to do is set the stage for that. Because, to get where you are now, you had to come so far. And so, Andrew, I want to start with you. And I want to start with Elroy Air. And what an interesting story, that PhD at MIT going out to California and deciding, hey, I'm going to build this aircraft. And your aircraft is called the Chaparral, if I recall correctly. Tell us kind of that origin story, if you will. Like, what was your inspiration to do all this?
Yeah, well, thanks for that. I joined Elroy Air in 2024, but Elroy Air is a 10-year-old company now. And the reason that I joined Elroy Air is that I saw a company that had cracked something genuinely hard to do. We are building an aircraft that can carry a meaningful amount of cargo, fly very long distances, and yet do it all autonomously. And that is a real engineering achievement. And so for me, the appeal was the company was at an inflection point where the tech was maturing. It was ready to start scaling into both the commercial and defense sectors. I saw an enormous opportunity here, and the team had really solved the hard part of the technology already. So my job was to take that foundation and turn it into a real business at scale.
All right. So very, very interesting. So you said very big, and I'm a lawyer, so I'm going to ask you details on that. Give us, if you will, some of the specs of this aircraft so people have that context. Like how much can it carry? How long can it fly? You know, kind of all those things people would want to know.
Yeah, well, the Elroy Chaparral is about a 30-foot wingspan large cargo drone.
Well,
And so when we talk about the kind of payload and range here, the max payload goes all the way up to over 500 pounds. The max distance goes all the way out to 450 miles. And the particular operating point that gets our customers really excited is carrying 300 pounds over a distance of 300 miles. Now, again, the way I think about this is that we're not going after really long range, what you might call the first mile, large jetliners flying across the country. Not what we're trying to do. We're also not trying to tackle the last mile. You might be familiar with small drones that deliver a single package to your backyard. Also not what we're trying to do. We're going after what's typically called the middle mile. That means from a distribution hub to a regional delivery point. Or in the case of Louisiana, from a helicopter port out to an oil rig. And so there's a lot of benefits here in terms of no pilot on board, no crew required, much safer and much more efficient.
yeah, oh, by the way, I'm like scrolling for a second. Greg Larson is out there saying hi. So hi, Greg. We are live, and thank you for chiming in, everybody out there. If you got questions, comments, concerns, or you just want to say hi, jump in the chat. We love all that. So yeah, that middle mile, especially that offshore energy segment, we've been talking about that for years, really, Andrew. I mean, every year I go to the Energy Drone and Robotics Coalition Summit in Houston, and that Petro Metro, Sean Gare and his crew. And it's a tough use case, quite frankly, because I mean, I'm sure, as you know, right, the ocean it's basically generates its own weather. So it's not just like, and even the urban use case, like hypothetically that you mentioned, like just say from a distribution hub that's maybe not quite in the middle of the city, bringing things to specific stores, there's all these different challenges, right, that you have to tackle to make all of those things successful. But that's a great bridge to talk to Jose, because Jose, you're the guy that helps companies like Elroy Air, kind of look at their problem set and help them through the compliance and regulatory pathway. So tell everybody a little bit more about Martin Solutions and kind of what you offer. First, I'm going to ask you a compound question here. First, what you offer, and second, how you guys even kind of married up, if you will, on some of these projects.
So the main point for us is to answer the first question, is to understand the ConOps, to understand the path that the customer like Andrew wants to follow. In the case of Andrew, there were different potential paths, analyze with offer those options to the client, try to understand and to get in this case, Andrew buy-in what are the potential paths. But when you're offering the potential path, you need to be quite honest on what are the risks. Each one of those paths has a risk.
Right.
So it's understanding the regulations, understanding what are the risks and where you are going. Andrew knew quite well some of the risks. We provided some other understanding of where those risks are, in order that he can prepare not only himself but his team. Because in some cases, the rigor of demonstration of the regulation, just the showing of compliance, as we call it in certification, it has certain requirements for the team, certain tools, certain processes, certain skill sets from the people that is there. Yes, and that is what is important, that Andrew, as a CEO, have a very good understanding of what is the map in front of him, and he can make a decision on what is the direction. We're there only to help him in the path and trying to guide him as best as we can. You know, bring people from different areas, discussions, bring the FAA on the table to have discussions. We have had discussion about the safety approach with the FAA, trying to make sure that the safety targets applicable to this specific aircraft are commensurate with the risk profile that the missions that we're proposing has. So, but that you need to put a position, and you need to have discussions with people like Andrew to make sure that he is well aware of what are the risks, where are the inflection points into that. With regards to the second point, or the second question, how we got together, I think in some part Andrew started trusting us a little bit more, and then we, you know, it was about trust, building that trust. But trust doesn't create in one single moment. He saw the work that we were doing and how we were capable of helping him, yes, doing his work as, you know, guiding the company to success.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, when you think about compliance, of course, safety is job number one at the end of the day. That's what the FAA is concerned about, at least, you know, in the US, and I'm sure all the other civil aviation authorities equally. You know, I'm going to go back to Andrew for a second and then jump back to Jose, because, you know, you guys decided to go autonomous from day one, right? So when I think about other companies out there, I think Whisk, you know, and they're a different case study. They're a different use case, you know, really focused on, you know, that kind of UAS or UAM, you know, passenger movements, you know, from the start, but also autonomously from the start. And it raised some eyebrows, like, wow, like that's pretty, you know, I don't want to say, what's the word I'm looking for? No, it's not it's pretty not aggressive, but there's a lot of initiative there to say we're just going to do this from day one. And so when you talk about your large aircraft and being fully autonomous, to kind of dovetail into what Jose was just talking about, you know, what were the things in terms of infrastructure, we'll call it, in terms of processes that you had to build in to your business model to make sure an autonomous large vehicle could get certified and would be safe?
Yeah, well, Don, a long time ago here at Elroy, we made 3 very contrarian bets. The first was that we were going to focus exclusively on cargo transportation. You brought up some other companies that are very focused on carrying people.
Yeah.
Those are very, very different use cases with different
100%.
implications and different safety requirements. The second bet that we made is that we would in fact be a VTOL aircraft, which is similar to a lot of the other participants in the eIPP. There are many others out there that are building conventional takeoff and landing aircraft, but
For sure,
our customers made
takeoff, right? Maybe
Yeah.
electric short takeoff and landing, eSTOL or eSTOL.
Mhm,
eVTOL, I mean, I think my crowd knows this, people watching this show, but for those that don't know, it's vertical takeoff and landing. So just to be clear, so go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. So that was your second bet. We're going VTOL.
Second contrarian bet is that we are in fact going VTOL because our customers and the use cases that they have demand it. The third contrarian bet that we made is that the aircraft is natively hybrid electric. And so what that means is that you put fuel into the aircraft and it goes. There's no charging infrastructure required on the ground, yet you get all of the benefits of electric propulsion and increased fuel efficiency. And so we're seeing that is very important, not just to our defense customers who don't want to install chargers out in the battlefield, but also to our commercial operators who want to plug this into existing infrastructure, as opposed to building out an entirely new charging infrastructure. And so you combine those 3 bets, and then it was a natural 4th bet for us to say, drones don't have pilots on board, so it has to be autonomous. And so from the get-go of the company, the conception of what this was going to be, we knew it had to be autonomous. But the cargo use case in particular is the exact right way to start with an autonomous aircraft in the national airspace. And we've seen incredible support, whether it's from the Department of Transportation, from the FAA, from the White House itself in the creation of the eIPP program, and from all of our stakeholders on the state, local, and federal level to say an autonomous cargo drone is the right way to start autonomous operations in the national airspace.
Very interesting. I'm going to jump to infrastructure and that with you, Andrew, and then we're going to go over to Jose. You know, I just saw some announcement, Joby, some tower, and it was like these two giant towers. It's like they're collaborating. The implication, I didn't get a chance to even read it because I literally saw it this morning, was that maybe it's going to be on a rooftop or something like this. I don't know. But, you know, these terms like drone port are not even defined. Vertiport, we've got an engineering brief that the FAA has put out, and there's still a lot of research going on in terms of downwash and, you know, what does all this look like, you know. But as you think about your Chaparral aircraft and these logistical, you know, flights, what kind of physical infrastructure? You say we don't need charters. If you've got an airport, you already have some gas nearby, we're good. In terms of like a runway or like some kind of a port, like whether plug-in, vertiport, drone port, I don't know what word we would use. What is your aircraft really need, or is it super flexible and can kind of adapt to many different environments?
Yeah, well, Don, our customers from the get-go on both the defense and the commercial side have demanded that there's no infrastructure requirements when it comes to our aircraft. And so that's been a key design principle for us. So again, you can take off and land from a patch of dirt. You can head out to a patch of grass or a muddy field out where our soldiers are in need of getting food, medicine, and resupplied supplies. You could be operating from the corner of a parking lot of a distribution center, where you simply you know, have the aircraft have the pod that you can see underneath it with cargo pre-packaged, and have it move it from the corner of that parking lot, fly 300 miles, and deposit it in the corner of a parking lot of another distribution center. And so I recognize what you said about some of the other folks out there who require very specific vertiports and downwash requirements. None of those apply to us given the smaller form factor of our aircraft and the fact that we don't have any of those infrastructure needs beyond just standard fuel. Wow,
that's incredible. So Jose, over to you. As you were listening to Andrew, you know, when you first met and you know, thinking through these use cases, I heard everything from offshore energy type use cases, of course, all revolving around cargo. I heard defense. You know, in your mind, you know, advising him, what were some of the things, or, you know, a similar company? I don't know that there quite frankly is a similar company, but for other companies out there, you know, what are kind of the things that you cycle through as you listen to a client like Andrew in terms of, you know, infrastructure? You mentioned there's some processes, there's some procedures that have to be in place. I'm assuming you're talking safety management systems and things like this, but could you kind of give us maybe that checklist rundown that people need to think about if they want to get into this space as well?
I think that very important, and what Elroy has is a very good relationship with the customers that they are going to be serving. There is another aspect of Elroy that is very helpful. They know that they want to be an OEM. They don't want to be an operator. So that from the get-go facilitates a lot of the discussions with the different operators that are out there. So is the possibility to run with Elroy and sit with the customers, understand what is the operations that they're trying to do, and trying to simplify, you know, present to the FAA a very distinct crawl, walk, run approach of what is the operations. It's very easy to start discussing about Part 135 from the beginning, yes? But how you break it down in small steps that everyone is successful. And that is, you need to bring success to the FAA, as well as to the complete community. From with Andrew, we had meetings with the airport, tower control, the customer, the operator, and we established a very clear ConOps with very clear steps of what we can do, what we cannot do, and how we can be successful in each one of those steps, considering safety at all time. So, that is for me the first part of the discussion is just you want flying offshore. You want to do a lot of this is all the ones. It's going to be your needs. It's going to transform requirements. How we break it down in small steps, and that is basically what we did with Andres, and he collaborated a lot with us on hey how we break this in small pieces that we are capable of showing continued success in this progression. And then the discussions with the authority, the discussion with the air traffic controller. Hey, we're going to operate here. How we can help you to alleviate your workload. Instead of saying, no, we're going to operate there and we're going this direction. We were discussing with him and he provided, hey, if you do A, B, C, D, we can help you. And therefore, that creates the basis of the ConOps and creates the basis for further discussions with other stakeholders. I think that is the most important part, and understanding that, yes, the objective is going to the moon, for example, but how you break it down in small steps that make you successful and get the yes from the authority. Because by the end of the day, what we want to is a yes, and the authority is not there to say no. The majority of the time, they're trying to help you. They're trying to get that yes, but it's how you approach the authority is pretty important into that equation. So for me, the ConOps discussions with all the stakeholders is the first part. And then for sure, establishing your safety management system is going to be extremely important. What is the organization that you require? We're discussing with Andrew and the operator. We're going to start with this organization, but that is going to be evolving through the different steps. So establishing the ConOps organization and how you're going to manage safety, I think are the three pillars that you really need to set at the beginning as a foundation with a clear roadmap of what are those steps. Yes.
Oh, that's excellent. I mean, that really provides a framework for people to think about, right, as they approach these problems. So, sometimes they say if you build it, they will come, right? That was a Kevin Costner movie, about baseball. But sometimes that's not the case, right? So, Andrew, you guys made a lot of bets, and but at the end of the day, there's big ROI. Right at the end of your rainbow, right? There's a big pot of ROI. Can you explain to people for some of these use cases? I can understand the defense one, that's my background, but maybe walk through maybe that offshore energy use case, that defense market use case, that kind of hub and spoke commercial distribution use case, and what value does your aircraft bring to those use cases that compared to maybe traditional means of getting cargo to those various locations or in those scenarios?
Well, Don, we're super proud of the partners and customers that we have assembled over the 10 years that Elroy Air has been working on this problem. And just like you said, while I love the movie Field of Dreams, I don't believe in if you build it, they will come. I believe that you actually have to start with very, very clear customer signal that says this is exactly what we want, and this is the pain point, the problem that we need to solve. Right. And then you design your solution to meet that problem. And so early on, we spent a lot of time with the US Army. We spent a lot of time with FedEx. We spent a lot of time with humanitarian aid organizations, all of whom have a real problem, which is how do I get food, water, medicine, supplies where they need to go, when they need to go, for typically fairly urgent missions that need to happen on a quick timescale. And so when we think about our defense partners, we have been proud to be partnered with the US Army, the US Marine Corps, the US Air Force, and the Japanese Army now for many years.
Oh, wow.
And the pain point that they're solving is that they have both routine logistics, which is the backbone of every single military operation worldwide, how you get supplies to our troops where they need to be. And on top of that, you have contested logistics, where why should we put a single one of our brave soldiers or airmen at risk to get food, water, or medicine where it needs to go when you could do it with a cargo drone such as ours? Zero risk to our brave soldiers, and also at a more efficient cost point than sending a massively expensive, exquisite aircraft to deliver, a single repair part in need out to a ship or to soldiers in the field.
Right.
And so the value prop for our defense partners is very crystal clear.
Yeah.
Now, moving to the commercial side of our business, we are very proud to have a signed backlog of over 1,400 units of demand for this aircraft system.
Wow.
And that consists of major operators, as I mentioned earlier, folks like the Bristow Group, one of the largest helicopter operators in the world, folks like FedEx, of course, the largest logistics provider in the world. And these folks have given us really, really clear signal to say, our pain point is that in that middle mile, there are typically so many hops and skips and jumps and handoffs where you have a person taking something out of one mode of transportation to load it into another mode of transportation that then is flown or driven by a set of amazing folks where it needs to go, and then yet again handed off in that process.
Right.
And so if you can skip all of those steps and simply fly directly point to point where it needs to go, you can save time, you can save money, you can make it more efficient to do express urgent movement of goods.
So point to point, that's kind of a trigger term because you guys had a big milestone. You hit a big milestone, I believe, in December on that note. So tell us a little bit about that, and then I want to talk to Jose about his involvement in that.
Yeah, well, in December, we did our first point A to B delivery of goods. And so we moved more than 200 pounds of goods, taking off in one location, ending up at a different location. And really for us, that was the biggest milestone that I asked my team to focus on in 2025. It showed that we are ready now to hit the road. And so as we now look here in 2026, we are already taking our Chaparral aircraft on the road to move cargo on behalf of both our defense customers, but also on behalf of our commercial customers as part of the eIPP. And so we've been working super closely with Jose and team for a very long time to make sure that we are laying the foundation of all of the approvals that we need to do this in a safe way, in a way that integrates naturally into the national airspace, and in a way that works really closely with all of our local partners on the ground. And so now, as we look here in 2026 and beyond, our focus is not just on doing deliveries this year, it's also on scaling the production of this aircraft. And so, as Jose mentioned, we took the approach of being an OEM, not being an airline operator or a Part 135 cargo operator. There are amazing folks out there who are very well suited to run those operations as our partners. But we also struck a manufacturing partnership with Kratos, one of the largest drone manufacturers here in the United States, which is going to help us scale rapidly production of Chaparral so we can get it in the hands at scale of our defense and commercial customers.
Yeah, Kratos, I just saw them at the Space Symposium. I mean, they do a lot, right? So they were showcasing some of their geospatial and ground-based sensors and how they were tracking, kind of what was happening in Iran right now. It was really, really interesting. I think I just posted an article on Autonomy Global about that. But they build the amongst other things, they build the XQ 58 Valkyrie for the Air Force. So what an amazing partner. So Jose, back over to you, because as I think about even this milestone flight in December, I mean the approvals that would be needed for that. Can you tell us what that was like? Because as Andrew said, they decided not to be an airline, as you think about kind of Part 135, but what parts, if you will, are triggered by this? Like, we don't have a 108 yet, so and they're way bigger than 107. So what are we looking at here in terms of, you know, the regulatory backbone that supports these kinds of missions, commercial, that is, in the U.S.?
This is a very good question, actually. Part 108 is the aircraft seem not to be within the scope of Part 108. This is a discussion that we're having with the FAA, and we're having with Andrew has with different part of the organization. Part 108 is basically up to 1,320 pounds.
Yeah.
But there is a category 5 that now the implementation of any regulation has a transition period. People start understanding. So it has a scope, but usually you are going to have waiver and exemptions. So we're waiting to understand a little bit more. Now,
well, not only that, but it's not even published yet, right? I mean,
no, it's not published.
Rumor has it that it's written, it's been sent to OMB, and that's kind of where we are, you know, with that. So, yeah, but please continue.
So, but what it has
my
been
dog
published,
just showed up. You know, it's live when the yellow lab breaks in the door and hangs out in the corner. He is so cute, though. That's Frank, everybody. That's my puppy.
Hi, Frank.
My 11-year-old puppy.
So what is important that there is some good information there within that set of requirements that the FAA has put together that can help you understand what the FAA is looking into, even if it's not published.
Yeah.
Even if the scope is not completely clear in some cases, because you're going to have waiver and exemptions later on.
Of course.
And we are taking those to build our arguments, yes, with the authorities. So we're basically trying to understand what the authority appetite is at this moment, and trying to build a safety case with those arguments. That is something that we are doing in this moment. So it's coming into, yes, Part 108 is not completely applicable, but there are certain points there that, for example, can help us to build a safety approach, because there are density requirements within the regulations, the proposed regulations, that can help us to do a safety position with the FAA. They already published something related to that. So it's just using the presence, even this is a proposed regulation that can help us to establish those positions early on. Now,
can I interrupt you, Jose? Yep. Can I ask you a question? Along those lines, I mean, the SFAR for powered lift was published, what, 2 years ago?
Yep.
Excuse me. And, you know, does that speak to kind of this type of aircraft? Because, I mean, it is powered lift, and, you know, and basically what that regulation did was kind of, I'll call it like kludge together. That's a technical term, right? It picked and chose, you know, pieces and parts of existing regulations to say, all right, this is how we're going to deal with it. I mean, is that kind of the world you guys are living in right now, as these regulations continue to dynamically change and evolve? Because I feel like that's where so many other companies are right now as well.
I think that the space in which Elroy Air is moving is kind of has much more fog than that it was basically a set of regulations as far as for Joby and Archer and these companies that has a pilot and are fully electrical engines. There are parts that can support us. You know, they need a special pilot rating for unified type of controls.
Yep.
You know, that you're talking about these type of conditions.
Yep.
Elroy is a big autonomous aircraft of about 2,200 pounds that operates, is going to be integrated into the NAS. So now the remote, it's not a pilot inside of the aircraft, it's a remote pilot. We don't have passenger on board, but we have cargo. We don't have the electrical battery per se that is working. We have a turbo generator. So there is difference there that make that hybrid combination something that it has not been done previously.
Yeah.
So even when we go to the 2117 Bravo and we're working with the FAA, is what is the path for this unique configuration?
Yeah.
And that is where we're working right now. So Elroy is breaking some path into this new. So he's taking part 108, he's taking part of the SFRs too, and he's taking part of the work that already has been done by, you know, the Jobbies, the Betas technology, and trying to put all together, because there are work already done, but we need to put it and do a case specifically for Chaparral.
Interesting. Go ahead,
Don, I want to
Yeah,
build on
please.
what Jose said there, because I think that Jose is right. We're breaking new ground here. And whenever you're doing something that's never been done before, you have to chart the right course.
Yeah.
But the reason that we charted this course, and the reason I'm excited about it, is that we don't have to sit around and wait for Part 108. We
Right.
don't have to sit around and wait for certain things to happen for us to start our business right now.
Yeah.
And so part of what we put together as part of the eIPP package, as Jose said, is a crawl, walk, run proposal that the
Yep.
FAA is quite excited about, frankly.
Right.
And the great thing about being a drone, and specifically a cargo drone that isn't carrying people on board, is that there are existing regulatory pathways today for drones to be able to get approval to do commercial operations and to be able to get approval to do long distance, long range, beyond visual line of sight flights. That could be through defined corridors, that can be through exemptions and waivers. But again, what I'm excited about and what gets us moving with our customers is that these regulatory pathways already exist.
Well, you know, honestly, Andrew, your exact use case and what you're trying to achieve is something that I've said for a long time, like, this is where it's going to work. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of that risk profile that Jose mentioned earlier, you know, not having people on board absolutely is the way to go when you're talking about a big autonomous vehicle. And the use, you know, and I love the fact that, of course, you've got these military partners, because, you know, they really have their own, you know, they work with the FAA clearly, right? But when they're in a combat zone, right, they've got their own processes and approvals that they deal with. You know, it's only in the United States when they're doing training missions that the FAA piece of this matters in any way. So, you know, that is a great place to prove, you know, the proving ground also, besides this eIPP. So I love what you guys are doing. I love that you're not just breaking ground, but you're breaking barriers. And I think, you know, what you're doing is so critically important. And at the end of the day, it's going to save lives. You know, whether it's in a rural area, somebody that needs medicines and can't get it otherwise. You know, I'm thinking Hawaiian Islands, I'm thinking Alaska. You know, you talked about Japan, talk about islands. I was Japanese Air Force, I think you mentioned. And by the way, I'm super excited. I'm going to Tokyo. I'm going to the Japan AAM Drone and AAM Expo. I don't know if you're going, Andrew, but if you are, let's meet up. That's in June 3rd to 5th.
Tokyo is one of my favorite cities in the world. We'll have to figure it out, Don.
Okay. So yeah, I'm super excited to be going to that for the first time ever, and going to Tokyo for the first time ever. But yeah, what you guys are doing as a team is amazing. And you know, Andrew, to your credit, you picked the right guy, you picked the right team to help you sort through this. Because as I listen, you know, with my lawyer brain, this is almost like a very difficult law school exam. Like, all right, here's the scenario. What applies? Like, how does this work? And you know, I understand, like, that you're working through this very hard together, and it's critically important. So how do people, you know, we could talk about this for days, honestly, and I knew our time would fly, no pun intended. We got maybe 5 minutes left, so I want to make sure that we're covering everything you guys want to cover, you know, before we sign off today. So I'm going to start with Jose. Like, is there anything I didn't ask you that you really wanted to cover in terms of, you know, this kind of infrastructure, this large cargo and autonomous vehicle arena that the audience should be thinking about?
I think that there is two main points. One you mentioned already, but Andrew mentioned, is the exemptions, how to use exemption and waiver also to bring revenue to a company, and that is very important that we're using it. The other point is the dual use. I think that Andrew, the company has a specific potential to work with the FAA and work with the DOW to get that dual use and reuse information from one sector to another. And that is something that we're trying to do, how we reuse information in order that, future dual use aircraft doesn't need to redo type certification for the DOW or type certification for the civilian. And the third aspect is the reuse of the current infrastructure, as Andrew was stating before, not only for using LTEs, using a current infrastructure that is there is something that we are trying to focus in this moment, because we consider that for these ConOps or for enable a lot of this technology, instead of trying to recreate, and with Andrew, we have a lot of discussion of onboard radars, for example, for detect and avoid, but how we reuse infrastructure that is already there, instead of trying to put a technology that is going to add to a Chaparral approval process 1 or 2 years more. So how we can do that? And that there is a lot of discussions that we're having internally and externally in order that we can establish that roadmap of reusing some of those current infrastructure that is there. Why to reinvent the wheel when we can reuse what is already good? So that it will be my summary of points that we're missing.
I love that. Andrew, over to you.
Yeah, well, I love what Jose said, that we are laser focused on unlocking in pathways to scale and revenue right now. We're not waiting on regulation. We're not putting things on our aircraft or asking things from our customers that are going to push this out into the future. And so for the listeners on the line, I'd say you should expect to see operations starting this year as part of the eIPP. You should expect to start to see defense customers putting our aircraft to work this year. And you're going to see a rapid scaling after that, where our soldiers are going to be kept safe out of harm's way as they're delivering critical cargo where it needs to go, where your packages that you're ordering are going to get to you faster and more efficiently as the middle mile gets sped up and made more efficient through the advent of this technology and supply chains. And after an earthquake or a tsunami or a tornado situation where our friends and neighbors and loved ones are in need of getting critical food, water, and medicine to them, you're going to see our aircraft there serving those in need. And that's what gets me out of bed every morning. That's why I'm excited to scale this technology. And that's why I'm proud to have folks like Jose partnered with us to scale it rapidly.
Well, I love that. And it's very clear that you are excited about it genuinely. So your enthusiasm really shows through, and agreed. You picked your fifth bet, if you will, was on Martin Solutions, and that was also a very good one. So maybe someday we can go to Vegas, because when you bet, I think you're winning. So hashtag winning, Elroy Air. Very good. All right, so lots of things on the horizon for both of you. Super exciting. Where can people learn more? Jose, I'm going to start with you. I know you have a website, but tell people a little bit more about how they can learn about Martin Solutions and find you.
The website, as you mentioned, but also we participate heavily, AUVA side, the FAA-EASA safety conference. We're in the majority of the safety conferences out there, participating with the regulator, understanding and discussing with them what they are thinking. There is no better venue, like, for example, the FAA safety, EASA safety conference, in which they're going to be. So those venues is where we are. Usually, trying to understand what is new for the regulator. So if you are in the proximity in June, for example, FAA, EASA, we're going to be there, AUVSI, any of those conferences, usually we participate.
All right, awesome. Well, I hope to see you at Exponential in Detroit here soon. Jose, Let's talk offline because I still have a handful of scholarships for Law Tech Connect that gets you into the expo hall for free and a copy of my drone law textbook. So for those listeners out there as well, hit me up, info@p3techconsulting.com. If you want to get to Exponential for free. I can't fly you there and I can't pay for your hotel, but I can kind of get you an incredible week pretty much for free. So Andrew, over to you. How can people find you, learn more about Elroy Air?
Yeah, check out elroyair.com. You can see lots of awesome info about our aircraft, our cargo pods. You can see them in operation there on our website. And then also just follow us on social media. We're super active on LinkedIn, on X, and on other social media platforms. We'll see you there.
All right, very good. Well, thank you very much. What a great way to end this infrastructure month. The bottom line is, you know what? Don't reinvent the wheel. Use what's already there, and maybe even build an aircraft that doesn't need very much of it. So that's pretty cool. That's all she wrote for today. We're going to kick off Defense Month next month. So that should be pretty awesome. We've got Exponential coming up, soft week. We've got a full crew dedicated to defense theme. So lots of defense topics next month. Check us out. In the meantime, be well. We are out here.